This program is proudly brought to you by Intuit, powering prosperity around the world. Canada is home to 1,226 AI startups. The ecosystem is thriving because of the top talent and minds choosing Canada as a hub. Despite our unparalleled research and innovation, Canada lags behind many other countries when it comes to creating globally recognized companies. A 2021 list of the world's most promising private AI firms puts Canada behind the US, China, the UK, and Israel. But change is in the air. From 2013 to 2019, 80,000 jobs were created in the Toronto-Waterloo corridor. Now that's more than San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington combined. And as techies pay more attention to what's happening north of the border, there is chatter that one day, in the not too distant future, Canada could unseat Silicon Valley as the world's top tech spot. On this episode, we'll explore how Canadian AI startups can grow into global market leaders as the technology moves at a rapid pace. We've got a great panel on deck. I'm joined by Alan Lau, CEO and co-founder of Wattpad, Derrick Fung, the CEO of Drop, and Steve Irvine, who is the CEO and founder of Integrate.ai. Steve, Canadian universities rank highly around the world when it comes to research, but Canada's global ranking drops off when it comes to the creation of startups. So what do you believe is the reason for this?
I think we're starting to see that tide turn a bit now. I think we just need to give it a little bit of time. I'm a big believer that if we continue to invest in the research, you're going to get a lot of the movement in terms of state of the art on the research side. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is this is a great place to build startups. I think previously we started to see that there were some issues in terms of raising funding or getting access to the right talent. And so I think it's really just about giving the entrepreneurs some time to be able to take that research, commercialize it, and build it into the big global businesses.
Derrick, is it difficult for startups to scale in Canada? I mean, how do we compare to the US, for example?
There's certain areas that make it a bit tougher. We're in the world of consumer drops, a consumer app. And I think that makes it, has made it challenging, definitely for consumer companies to grow and scale, given, in the Valley and in the US, there's, a ton of companies that you can learn from. It is an area of opportunity for Canada, but I'd say over the last couple of years, having been in tech and startups for almost a decade now, definitely a lot more capital, as Steve has said, definitely much easier now to bring talent here. And as you're seeing a lot of also big US tech companies opening up offices here in Toronto, I think that speaks really to that growth. And they're opening up not just sales and marketing offices, they're opening up actually engineering offices as well. And these are like highly reputable companies in the US coming up north.
Alan, how can companies keep pace with the rapid advancements in AI to ensure they actually keep a competitive edge?
Whether it's AI or not, talent is the most important thing. And like Derrick and Stephen talked about earlier, we actually have the talent, but one of the biggest problems that we had in the past was we never had that many companies that achieve escape velocities. At least that was the case perhaps 5 to 10 years ago. Today, we have a huge crop of companies, a huge crop of unicorns, and the companies achieve successes. And that's recycling of talent is already happening. So I'm very, very optimistic that we will continue to grow this sector.
Steve, what are the gaps in Canada's innovation ecosystem when it comes to AI?
On the commercialization side, I think we've had to play some catch up. It's difficult sometimes to get things out of the lab into commercial applications that can scale and meet the market demands. And I think that's been the area of focus over the last couple of years. I moved back here from Silicon Valley in 2017. And at that time, really, I think it was a bit of a confidence issue. It was news that I was moving back from Silicon Valley. And now, there's probably 5 of me moving back every day and nobody even covers it because it's just expected, And so I think what we're starting to see now is that we've got the talent, we've got the research, and the commercialization is in progress.
Well, Alan, what you've been able to achieve with Wattpad has changed the way stories and content are developed and adapted for new formats. So how will you continue to hone and build on the technology?
Yeah, it may not be obvious from the outside, but we leverage a lot through data because when we have over 90 million people consuming the fictional stories on our platform and seeing 1 million new chapters in 50 languages from 5 continents every single day on our platform, we collect billions of data points every day. And this type of data is very unique because when we adapt the stories on our platform to movies, TV shows, or even print books, we could tell the screenwriter or the editor, keep chapter 1, chapter 5, or chapter 7, but only the first 2 paragraphs because that's what the 200,000 comments are telling us. This is like the first time in the universe that a company can leverage that type of data and provide insights before the movie is even made. We just need to continue to invest in artificial intelligence. We are in a very, very early day scratching the surface in terms of unlocking that capability.
Derrick, how has the pandemic changed the way AI startups think about operating globally?
If you look at last year, biggest IPO, Snowflake, data related, biggest M&A, S&P buying IHS for data. 187 billion spent on from corporates on data has only, it's like a 10-year roadmap accelerated into a 1-year roadmap because of COVID. And so I'd say there's going to be a lot of use cases out there for new startups, existing startups. I'd say what's most important is more openness for corporates to work with startups. Given to do AI and machine learning, you need a lot of data, and I think people don't realize how much data you really need. So if you look at who's really sitting on that data, corporates, governments, you look at what Israel did during COVID, government sharing data with startups to help fight the pandemic. So I'd say a lot more collaboration in a post-COVID world, a lot more interest, and really just challenge more and more corporates and governments to be more open to not just working with startups, but realizing the fact that, hey, like to do interesting things, you also need structured data, and that just takes time. So, let's get started now, because the future is super exciting. And, they say data is new oil. And, if there's a year that statement really is true, I think 2020 was that year where literally there was a flip. If you look at oil prices compared to data last year. So exciting times to come for this industry moving forward.
Sounds like a lot of collaboration on the horizon in the space. Thank you very much, Steve, Derrick, and Alan. Deloitte believes the market for electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, more commonly known as flying cars, will reach $4 billion in the next 4 years. By 2035, it sees the market growing to $57 billion. In May of this year, a company backed by aerospace giant Boeing and electric vehicle maker Kitty Hawk signed the first ever deal to operate air taxis in the US. Kitty Hawk was founded by Google co-founder Larry Page and entrepreneur and computer scientist Sebastian Thrun. Thrun has a bold vision for the future of autonomous flying vehicles, which would not be possible without using artificial intelligence and machine learning.
The vehicles we build often have 10, 12 propellers, and no human being is able to manually control 12 propellers. I think we're going to see first pilots come up in the next 24 months that people can try it out and experience it. And I'd say it's going to be another, 10 years until we find cities having more flights than drives per day, but it's going to happen. There was a time when there were more horses than cars on the roads, and those times are passé. The same will happen here. At some point, we'll see more aircraft than cars in the sky.
With flying cars already becoming a reality in the US, does Canada really have what it takes to compete on the global AI stage? Well, to answer this question and a whole lot more, I'm joined by Chris Albinson, President and CEO of Communitech. So Chris, how is Communitech helping AI startups achieve commercial success?
Canada's really having a bit of a moment. Whether or not you look at Clio on the West Coast all the way to Apply Board in Waterloo region, And most of these companies, if you look at the ones that are growing the fastest coast to coast, they're using AI as some of their core functionality. We're focused on helping them in accessing global markets, increasing their visibility from a brand point of view. We're kicking off a big summit around applied ethical AI, which I think is going to be core to Canada's brand globally, but we can talk more about that in a second.
Well, you've worked in Silicon Valley for many years. Now Canada. The Valley is still the top global destination for startups. So what would a region need to actually do in order to take the title of the world's top tech spot?
Silicon Valley beat Boston as the top spot, not by being Boston, but by being different, frankly. And Canada's actually set up, I think, really well to beat the Valley, not by being the Valley, but by doing global tech and tech for good in a fundamentally different way where, I think tech increasingly globally, is questioned. Is it ethical? Is it actually doing good things for humans? What's motivating people? And Canada's brand, I think, uniquely globally combines this capacity to bring tech to market at world scale and with awesome commercialization, example like Shopify, but also do it in a way that's, it's got an ethos. It's not just brain, but we bring soul also to the equation. I think it's a really different way we're positioned. I'm excited about that.
Well, speaking of Canadian startups expanding internationally, you are the co-founder of C100, which is a non-profit to help Canadian startups grow internationally. So how has its mission evolved as Canada's AI ecosystem has strengthened?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we started C100 a decade ago, Canada was really having a desert on innovation. There was no private venture capital to speak of. Obviously, that's changed dramatically over 10 years. I remember, mentoring Toby and Harley when they're starting Shopify, and they were told you could never build a company to $1 billion in revenue from Canada. And lo and behold, 10 years on, I think it's actually 15-year anniversary of Shopify this week. They're the fastest company to get to $1 billion in revenue anywhere on the planet before or since. So one of the things we can be really proud of. And I think, the example that, the founders at Clearbank and Wealthsimple and Clio and Applyboard, are all coming fast on their heels in a really exciting way.
Is there anything that worries you that could cause Canada's tech ecosystem to stagnate?
There's all kinds of risks, but the one big thing that I'm really focused on, which I think is really precious and very unique about Canada, is we have this trust globally. The Canadians are good folks. They're going to do the right thing. They're trusted. And if you contrast that to how AI is manifesting in other places in the world where, big tech is not trusted, frankly, big tech out of China or big tech out of the US, there's a global perspective of, can we trust it? And so if we're great curators of that brand that we have as Canadians and apply it into AI and say, we're the place where ethical AI is applied into every sector and every geography, and you can trust and understand what we're using the technology for. And, Canadian AI is, not going to be producing the robots that kill people. We're going to be, doing the things that help people. And I think that if we do that well, we're going to scale very, very quickly on a global basis. And I think that'll be an exciting positioning for us within the larger AI competition.
Well, trust is definitely a theme in the marketplace for sure when it comes to artificial intelligence. Chris, really appreciate you taking the time. Well, that's it for the show. Be sure to join the AI conversation on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And of course, you can check out all of our episodes of The AI Edge online. For more on the latest in business, technology, and innovation from around the world, log on to globalivemedia.com. Thanks for watching.